Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 305 Insights. I'm your host, Alan Summerton, back here again with Eric because we are pumping out content this week because it's a week like no other. It is FSU, and it is at Doak Campbell Stadium, a real stadium. And this is where the number 3 ranked Hurricanes are going up against the number 18 ranked Seminoles. So the reason why this game is important is because twofold. One, FSU is still technically alive in the ACC race if they run the table. Highly unlikely. However, this is the final test for this year. And this is intriguing in a few different levels because A, this is UM's first road game. B, they're coming off a bye week. C, it's FSU. And despite this rivalry, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Eric, but this is the weird thing about this rivalry for me compared to other rivalries. The team that is expected to win usually wins like 90% of the time. There's not a lot of times where
Mhm.
there's like a major upset. But it's an even. This isn't like Bedlam where Oklahoma's up like 90-5 on Oklahoma State, right? This is a very even series for a program like FSU that started a lot later than But let's go from like the 1980s on. This has been a very close series that has involved multiple championships on the line. It just feels good because this is the first time both teams have been good since 2013 when there was a top 10 matchup. So the spread currently is 4.5 on Hard Rock Bet. And I just really want to bring you in there because I know you have strong opinions about that spread. So before we really dive into the totality of the game, what are your initial thoughts on Hard Rock Bet and a lot of Vegas as well? Just these sports books in general, keeping this game pretty close.
I think it just goes into the aspect of you constantly hear the get it's a rivalry game.
Throw the records out.
There it is. Exactly. Exactly. But I'm in shock. Um, but also too, you never really bet against the house. There's always they're always extremely accurate. The only thing I can think of is it's it's at FSU. We saw the last time FSU played there against a ranked team. I mean, that's the only thing I can kind of toss it up to. The fact that it's a home game at FSU. Yeah, if this was at Hard Rock Stadium, I think the spread is adding at least at least a minimum of 2 more points or
Well,
three
the
more
old
points.
adage is like the home team gets 3 points. So technically, is this like a 7.5 point spread, against
I,
at
I if it was a 7.5 point spread, I would be okay with it. I can be like, okay, I can see this. But the fact that they have it at a 4.5,
To be fair, I believe it opened up in a lot of places at 6.5 or 5.5, and now it's down to 4.5. So there's people
oh,
betting
so
on
people
it.
are
It's
that's true.
moving down.
Yeah, it's
That's the thing.
moving.
Now we'll see where where the quote unquote smart money comes in later in the week. Like on Friday or Saturday, where it moves from there. But I
So,
mean,
so you being an advocate of an FSU fan and watching FSU very closely, why do you
to be
think
fair, I'm
people
also
are?
a got so let's throw that out there
You
for
know, you got to put that out there.
the.
But why do you think people are putting more money on FSU covering that? Let's say the line was at
If
6.
to put it simply, Tommy Castellanos. To expand on it a little more, I think this is an offense that hasn't dealt with. Because again, you look at the schedule coming into the season, we're facing Notre Dame and we're facing Florida. I think everybody's clear on my thoughts on Florida. But just in general, like Florida has not looked adequate on offense. Like not even like okay. They don't
I
look
think
adequate.
the only thing that you have had going for themselves is, the only thing that stayed accurate was your defense, and I do agree with you that the offensive wise and the offensive side of the ball, it's, we always I always like to say, like, we don't know the identity of it,
Yeah. And
and
then
I do agree with you on that.
I think people are, and again, this is nitpicking because at the end of the day, UM won those games. The problem was
Mhm.
they didn't win them the way
The
that
way
they
that you
should
liked
have.
it.
No, the way, the way that they should have with the way the game was playing out. They're up
Mhm.
21-3 on Notre Dame. They win by a field goal. They're absolutely dominating that game against Florida. There is no debate about that. Somehow the game's 13-7 in the second half. Like the thing that I think what people take away is what I'm talking about with Tommy Castellanos. You saw what Notre Dame was able to do once they started running the quarterback. It opened up the playbook for them. Now they weren't like marching up and down the field like, like they were going to score a bunch of points, but they came back from 21-3. And Tommy is clearly a much better dual threat for lack of redundancy there, um, than compared to Carr at Notre Dame. I think also it's the dynamic of FSU's offense. It's we're going to pound the ball, we're going to pound the ball, and once you start creeping in those safeties, we're going over the top with Deuce Robinson. We're going over the top with Squirrel Wright, and then you start backing them up again, and then it allows for the running game to get some more gashes. It's just it's a very basic offense in the sense of what they want to do. That's literally it. We're going to pound the ball until we can take that shot. And that's literally Gus Malzahn's offense if you really want to simplify. Can UM handle that? It's the Tommy effect. That's really what it is. Can they handle having that running quarterback? That's why I think the spread is where it's at right now.
It's not the first time they played against Tommy, I believe, right? Oh, no, it is the first time they played against Tommy. It
But
is.
it's
They
also
didn't
the
play,
athletes. Like even if you faced Tommy at Boston College, like you had him against Bill O'Brien, who wants to run a pro style offense, and it's not really using Tommy to the best of his ability. There's a reason
yeah.
why Gus was hired and says we need to get this kid. Is he the best quarterback in the country? Obviously not. But all you need Tommy to do is to pass the ball 25, 26 times a game and have that one play to Deuce Robinson, have that one play to Squirrel White, and that's it. But I mean, again, cut it whenever you want. But to me, the thing that concerns me about UM is the type of scheme that they're currently running, where it is it primarily leans on zone. And if you give these wide receivers space, it's a cause for concern. And you're highly dependent on Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor bringing the pressure to me. And
Which is not a bad
correct,
thing.
but again, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here because you're
I
more of the
am.
schematic person.
I am.
If Bain and Mesidor rush like straight up, right? It's more about collapsing the pocket and kind of making them uncomfortable because that's kind of what Virginia was trying to do, but they don't have the athletes to do it. Now, you don't want to cut like I'm really getting technical here, but if Bain like spin moves in, right? That allows for Tommy to roll out and get some chunk yards there.
Mhm.
If I'm UM, what I'm doing is I'm making sure like I'm bull rushing from the edges and collapsing the pocket from the outside in.
So, we talked about it offline, right, before coming on. The way and I mean, I'm hoping that maybe I don't know, just looking at what the defense looks like and what we saw from that Virginia game. Because I'm not going to say Virginia exposed anything of FSU.
Are you talking about
I
FSU's defense
I'm talking about
or just how UM's gonna attack? Like,
no, I'm talking about what we saw from the because first looking at because we got to look at the tape, right? UM is going to look at what Virginia did because clearly they were undefeated and they ended up losing a game. FSU came out of there with their first loss. You got to look at why they lost and what happened in that game. FSU still put up 38 points.
and
They
over
did.
500 yards of offense.
Exactly. Why did they do that? How did they do that? Was it off of schematics that they were able to run the ball, or was it because Tommy was able to throw the ball? I'm asking you that question.
It's honestly like it's all scheme because again, if Tommy's successful at throwing the ball, it's because of again how effective the running game is. Now the
Hmm.
problem is you have a problem solver, I guess is the best way to put it, a mistake eraser in Deuce Robinson. You've seen
Hmm.
when they've leaned on him, he's able to make plays and get over 100 receiving yards. Everybody knows that when push comes to shove, Tommy's going to go, Deuce, where are you? And throw it up to him. Like, Tommy's not a quarterback in the sense of like,
Which
pocket
is it.
passer Carson Beck, which is why I
And
believe, like I say, when you collapse the pocket that way, it's going to make him uncomfortable instead of him being able to run on the outside and kind of generate something there.
so the way that you eliminate, let's say a Tommy, like we're talking about Tommy's going to be a guy that he's going to want to extend plays. What do? You keep them in a box. You're just like you're saying, your D line, your outside rushers are rushing downhill. Hey, your D tackle, your center is pushing that pocket back into him. That's gonna make him want to scroll. If he runs out, we have the containment on the outside. But guess what? We're talking about if we're making Tommy a quarterback. Because where FSU is really good is the misdirection and if the defense is not playing disciplined ball with the trickery behind the line of the different hands off and trying to get to the outside and use the perimeter. How do you do that? We have to be very disciplined on our angles. We have to be very disciplined on the pursuit of the ball and what little gaps are gap containment, right? So that's why FSU is really good at doing what they do, which is getting to the outside, breaking containment, misdirection, where the ball is going to be ran. If you looking at that, you need to own the line of scrimmage and you need to be able to execute on these things and having an execution on a defense that's not disciplined. Now, that being said, UM, we have I don't think we've ever looked at UM's defense this season and been like, it's a question mark. UM's defense has been more consistent than anything else on this team. And the fact that they're FSU's best asset of what they can do, UM has accounted for it. The way that FSU wins that game is if Tommy is a quarterback, a pocket passer, and able to stand in the pocket and throw the ball. And how do you do that? You're going to have somebody spy on him. And when you have a spy, you go into man defense and make him throw the ball outside of the numbers. If he beats us that way, by all means,
But
congratulations.
so the problem with that though, and I get what you're saying, and I understand why you're saying that, but respectful. Currently, UM does play off their cornerbacks play off the wide receivers a lot. It's not like press covers. It's usually like
Yeah. Little
their
cushion.
idea. Their idea is we're not going to give it the big play because I don't want to say they hope for coverage sacks, but like they're just the way that it seems like that it's a zone heavy scheme. Like I was looking at the statistics and I believe they run straight man coverage a little under 10% of the time. It's 95% of the time it's cover 3. So
Okay. Yeah.
it's
So
just
what
one of
it
those
is,
things where
it sounds like a bend don't break because there's
but you can't allow FSU that ability to get those first downs because then what's happening is how effective is Mesidor and Bain going to be at the end of the game if you're allowing Gus Malzahn to run the ball, and if it's running's not being effective, we're going to get 6-7 yards a pass, and then
I
the
don't think
old
you get that though. I think once you get to to that 50 center of the, I think you guys are going to get the first two first downs. You're going to get the first 20 yards.
but what you're implying there is that they're immediately going to start changing their coverages.
No, the field
Like,
shrinks. The field shrinks, and then you start pressing more into the center of the field.
so you're
You're keeping them
trusting
inside the hash.
so you're trusting you believe that without being tested this year, that FSU secondary or secondary is able to keep up with the athletes that FSU has.
I don't think it's the athlete aspect of it. I think it's the fact that can Tommy get the ball to his athlete. You're never going to run a defense that's going to cover everything. Now, mind you, you're going to
And that's my
leave an
concern when you're saying the spy thing, because you're taking away someone on the field that allows for someone like Randy Pittman, the tight end, to just sit in a certain spot, right? Or for Makai Danzy at the slot wide receiver, or Jalen
Mhm,
Lucas, one of these like guys. Jalen's a little like he's more of a little like Darren Sproles type guy, but like Makai
mhm.
Danzy's the guy who's you're gonna hear it like 1,000 times during the game. He ran the 400-meter and da da da, which doesn't really matter in football. Like if you tell me 100 meters,
Yes,
sure.
I remember.
400
I
meter, I'm
remember.
like I don't like
He,
if he's getting the ball at the 1 and he has a clear path to run to the other end zone. Okay, sure, he can sustain his top speed for forever. Fine, but again, I'm
it's one
sorry.
of those.
That's one of
It's
those
one
things
of
where I'm
those. It's
ranting,
like
but
what? It's like one of those when you see like Ryan Tannehill. It's like he played wide
yeah.
receiver.
Yeah, it was the same thing when, what's his name? I'm sorry, I'm gonna go off track. But so it's one of those
But
Nick O'Leary was on FSU and they was, "Oh, it's Jack Nicholson's godson." It's like, okay, I swear to God, if I hear that one more time, like, but
no, but it's funny. It's a good call out because I remember when he got like a reverse handoff or like a outside like
yeah,
he
yeah, the
went to the
reverse, they
back
ran
and
it like 3 times so far this season.
yeah. So and they mentioned it like
Yeah,
every single
it,
time he
it's
gets
it's
it.
it, it's a bullet point, like, but anyways, so when you
Yeah.
take that
Anyways,
spy, that might be Wesley Bethane or yeah, I don't know who else might be at linebacker that could be covering someone in the slot, but they're covering this guy, and you might have the
but
wrong guy in coverage. That's where Malzahn's going to exploit it. So that's my concern for where like you're saying, like, oh, just put a spy, and like let
what
the
would you
defensive
rather?
line.
I'll ask you this: where would you rather, if you're gonna lose, right? If you're gonna lose in a play, would you rather lose with losing containment of Tommy and Tommy runs, or Tommy has to stand in the pocket and make a throw to his tight end?
I would rather have Tommy run, and the reason why I'm saying is because
Oh,
the
okay. I
like
like to hear that.
the
Mhm.
linebackers that has, the athletes that they have in terms of again, like what I like about FSU's defense this year is they're very downhill. I think that if you go east west, all that stuff, it's not a good thing for Tommy. If he goes up the middle, he's going to run into someone eventually. And I just think for me, I'd rather have Tommy do that and sliding because he actually does take care of himself for the most part than you saying like testing the idea of like Deuce Robinson being like contained in the sense of not a big play or that Randy Pittman isn't like I think there's less of a likelihood. The reason why I say that is there's less of a likelihood of Tommy being an explosive play versus him getting the ball off to Makai Denzi in an open field, you know? Like,
Mhm.
or getting the ball to, not that Randy Pittman is a good tight end that like he's a pro's pro. Yeah. But like he knows how to sit in the zone. He's the one tight end that I really trust to actually, even though he's a tremendous blocker, but he's actually really good at just being that safety valve. But that's why I say I'd rather have Tommy running because like he's gonna slide and he might get like 6, 7 yards before the defense can react to it, as opposed to you asking me, would I rather have it him throwing? Because if he's throwing, they're not, despite what Miami's game plan is going to be, Eric, Tommy's not going to throw the ball a bunch of times. The only time, if he's throwing the ball a bunch of times, the game's already over. That's the thing.
Mhm.
Like,
And that's what UM wants.
no, but if you're getting to that point, like it's already like, it's like the Virginia game where it's 14-0 and you have to try and throw your way back in. And that could happen off of like, as sad as it is for me to say, like it could happen off a muff punt because apparently we have no idea how to catch a punt, or like, the defense just doesn't show up, right? And maybe we don't sustain a drive as to where we get a score.
Mhm.
But like, let's say it's 7-0, you guys drive down the field, and we have like an 8 play drive, and we go for it on 4th and 2 on like the 38 because it's going to be like a 50-yard field goal, and we don't get it, and then drives down the field again. That's where it's like, okay, it's 14-0, and then the game changes. There's nothing you can do about that. But if the game is staying relatively at the level where, yeah, where the betters think it's going to stay, Tommy's not going to be chucking the ball unless it's a designed play. Malzahn, as much as I didn't like the play calls of last game, at the end of the day, he understands who Tommy is. And like I told you in the Alabama game, the thing that I took away from that is Malzahn puts the players in a position to succeed. Even against Bama, he wasn't forced to throw the ball, as consistently as Bama would have wanted.
Mhm.
And again, I know is, again, on both sides of the ball, they're really talented on the trenches. In my opinion, they're the best overall team when you take both sides of the ball, as opposed to, like, let's say, you know, Alabama's offensive line, although they don't play well together individually, they're
It's
very talented.
they're counted. Exactly.
Ohio,
Yeah.
Texas's defensive line is crazy. If you count like the way they play, like the 3-4, you know, that sort of thing, right? But again, when we're talking about Alabama's defensive line, we saw what FSU did against that. And again, you could say they weren't prepared or anything like that, but this also goes into the fact that this is UM's first road game. Doak Campbell is going to be at a different level because FSU is actually decent this year. Like, yeah, they lost the game, but again, coming into the season, we thought best case scenario, they were going to go 8-4. And by 8-4, they were going to lose to Bama, Florida, Clemson, and Miami. And they were going to go undefeated against everybody else, which I didn't think was going to happen. So I thought they would go 7-5. You beat Bama, you lose that one game that I thought you'd lose in terms of like that one random ACC game. And then now you have an opportunity to
I think
ruin,
it's just the way they lost to Virginia. That's it, it's
but it's correctable things. That's the thing that I think you're not taking away from it. Like, they're not going to have 15 missed tackles against They're not going to like be so undisciplined when
what
it
makes
comes
you
to
so
gap
sure
protection.
because of the game,
What do you mean because of the game? What do you mean?
because of like the rivalry. Like what makes you think that they're gonna tackle? Because like I mean, look, I don't know about much of what Virginia has to offer, but UM's skilled players and impact players are significantly better than Virginia's
Because
players.
doesn't have a threat at quarterback to run. That's the thing. Chandler Morris
Okay.
isn't like a dual threat guy, but Chandler Morris could move. And when you think you
Mhm.
have a sack or when you think you have a loss, like he was able to escape those situations. And again, in the red zone, he ran the ball, I think, like twice or whatever. But that's
Mhm.
the thing you don't have to fear with Carson Beck. It's more of a pocket passer. So you have the better offensive line, yes. But Chandler Morris is a different type of QB than Carson Beck, which is where I think like those little things like what you're saying is like why don't I think that's going to happen? Because it didn't really happen against Alabama. They didn't really miss any tackles after that first drive. They were playing physical against one of the most talented teams in the country. And the other two games, yeah, it was scrubs, but everybody was playing disciplined football. The difference is Chandler Morris is like a 6-year guy or a 5th-year guy, whatever he is. He's been around for forever. He's the son of an offensive coordinator. And I just think his slight mobility that he had, again, not saying he's Lamar Jackson, but his ability to manipulate the pocket and do different things like that makes a huge difference compared to someone like Carson Beck or someone like Ty Simpson, who wasn't willing to run unless he was absolutely forced to. And I don't think Carson Beck is going to be able to do that, which means this team can stay more disciplined in terms of running lanes and whatnot. Now, can UM open it up with their offensive line? I mean, we really don't have to dive into the fact that your left tackle is like 6'9", 350 pounds. The left guard is 340 pounds. The center's the smallest guy at like 6'2", 295. Francis
Mhm.
Marioga, 6'6", 350. Like, you guys have monsters. And a lot of those guys are going to be drafted to the NFL. And will they be able to open up the running lanes? Yes. But will FSU be more disciplined in filling those lanes up? That's where I'm saying, like, you can't take away the Virginia thing and saying that, like, oh, Virginia opened things up. Like, it's a very, like, UM's offense under Mario Cristobal isn't really like, like some sort of like Rubik's Cube to solve.
Yeah, our guy's better than your guy. Like,
Yeah.
you know what we're gonna do, but we're just gonna be better than you.
Yeah.
Which that's why I'm saying it's like you know what we're gonna do, and we know that you know what we're gonna do, but we're gonna beat that one-on-one battle. Like if you match us talent to talent, and we're basing it off of execution, because the two biggest things and this is why like that 4.5 spread, and what's throwing me off is that Bama has had the talent, but the talent wasn't coached correctly and wasn't used correctly. On the other hand, has the talent and is utilizing the talent to the best of its ability and executing on what needs to happen. And I think that's where it offsets when we're looking at the Bama game. And then looking at Virginia, right? Virginia actually played to its strength and played disciplined ball and actually moved the ball down the field when it came to the running game. Because, I mean, they rushed for over 200 yards and they threw for over 200 yards. So if I know it sounds probably stupid that like what I'm about to say, but if Bama had the execution that Virginia had, it's a blowout game. The game is complete, like it's more disciplined area, and the fact that I think is a better coach team than Bama is, and I think they're a better talented team than Virginia, and that's why I think that 4.5 spread is way too small for what it needs to be. Because I do think that like would come like very comfortable moving forward.
Yeah, again, I think you're putting
No,
so
you're
what you
putting.
just no, so what you just said that you're off putting. No, so what you just said there is basically my issue that I have with you approaching this game. You're taking away the negatives from the Virginia game and saying those aren't gonna improve because we're that much physically better than you. And then you're taking away they're taking what they did against Alabama and saying that doesn't really count. That's where I'm concerned about how you're approaching this game. You're basically saying they're not gonna learn anything from the Virginia game, and everything that they did positively in the Alabama game isn't gonna factor in. And again, versus Alabama, the trenches, yes, they're more disciplined. The talent level on the outside, Alabama has better wide receivers. That's not up for debate. The difference is what you're hoping for is the main problem with Alabama in that game. Yes, they were beat physically. However, Ty Simpson was a half a second late on a lot of different things. Is Carson Beck with a dry ball? Is Carson Beck with a dry ball going to be different than Ty Simpson? Because what insiders and or non-casual fan like diehards are insisting is they're going to be better because they're not going to be playing in a monsoon every single game. This game, I think, as far as I know, is not going to like be that type of weather, right? So
I'm
is
on it.
okay. Is this game going to be a dry game? Or have we started to kind of wonder, is Carson Beck fully back from his offseason surgery? Again, this is a guy that basically got the version of Tommy John for quarterbacks. He did not have enough zip on the ball against Florida, right? And if he doesn't have that same, if he has that same type of output where he's a second off, or like, I don't say a second, like if he's half a second off and that ball doesn't have the zip, FSU is going to be okay with that in the sense of like, if we only have to worry about the running game, we can kind of like scheme for that. If we don't have
It's
to
going to be
worry
raining.
about, it's going to be raining for real. Oh, I got to change my bet. No, but again, like, but this again, this could play a factor where
Do
if
you know what the
Carson,
over under is, by the way?
yes, I do.
I'm sorry.
Don't worry, I have that.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
it's 53 and a half. Currently, I think it's 53 and a
Oh,
half. If it's raining, I
okay.
might have to change my pick, but I'm not sure.
I think it's
Because if it
unbelievable.
was a dry game, I would hammer the over
Ooh.
because
Yeah, I
okay,
can see
okay.
that. I
Here,
can see
here's
that.
we'll jump off this Carson Beck thing to something more interesting. Um, here's the
We're
thing.
talking about weather.
Yeah, Mike
Dry
Norvell
balls.
doesn't coach conservatively. He if he's gonna get blown out, then by God, he's gonna get blown out. Like he does not care. But like you kind of saw it in the Bama game when they were losing momentum and he went for it on 4th and 2 from his own 36 or 38. And he's like, I need to get this. If you don't get that, like Bama's got the shortest field to go get a touchdown to make it 24-24, right? On the opposite side, Mario Cristobal
Is the most
is the
conservative.
most conservative. Like he'll have 4th and
Mhm.
2 on that same 38-yard line, except it's on it's on the side you want to be. And he'll look at that and he'll go, you know what? Let's be safe and punt it. The amount of points that Mario Cristobal leaves on the board is borderline insane. And I get that there's a limit as to where like the analytics turn into like, okay, should we really do this? But that to me might be the difference in the game is that Mario's going to do a play where he's like, you know what, we'll punt it here and I trust my defense. And I get what he's trying to do. But if you have that offensive line and you have Mark Fletcher, or who I think is going to be a very important person if he plays in this game, uh, Jordan Lyles. Did I get his last name correct? Um, if if he plays and he gets like 9 touches this game, I think that's a positive for UM because that's an explosive player that FSU needs to account for. That hasn't seen the field a lot this season because of his injury. So that's something that FSU and Tony White and the defense can't really game plan for because you're not sure if he's going to be available or not, even though they said he is, but how many touches is he going to get? So this is the part where I'm concerned about UM is the coaching matchup. UM is clearly the more talented team, but
Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
what? I'm just
You're gonna
saying
say
that
that your
no, 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 I'm not.
coaching is better?
No, 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 I'm not saying that. I'm just
Oh, okay.
saying
I was
that the ability for FSU to kind of go for that coin flip is what may keep them in the game as to opposed to it being a blowout. Because again, if it starts being like I said, that hypothetical where it's 14-0, Norvell's going for it on 4th down in their territory on FSU side of the ball as opposed to
what's
UM's
your
territory.
what is your take on, I know this is not a characteristic that we've ever seen, but what about some Mario? becomes an aggressive caller. That's a scary look for FSU, in my opinion. I
Yeah, but
think
it's also there's enough data to show that Mario does not do that. Like,
I know, man.
because again, at the end of the
Mario just
day
needs to go up prayer.
at the end of the day, Mario knows that he has the trenches, and that's all he cares about. And at the end of the day, he knows that he has the best team in the trenches, and we're just gonna beat you that way. I don't need to put myself in these uncomfortable situations because I believe that as the game wears on, that we're just gonna be more effective than you.
Yeah, but and and that's where I kind of like I've always not seen eye to eye with Mario, just because of the fact that there's moments in the game that you have to step on the person like throat and make a statement and move forward with the ball. But
Like, how annoyed would hypothetically, it's
I'm
let's
annoyed.
say it's 10-0, right? It's 10-0, and they're on the 49-yard line. I don't wanna say 50, but, like, 49 on FSU's side, right? And it's 4th
Still
and
don't care.
2. Would you be annoyed if he punts the ball?
No,
Because the analytics in that situation would say to go for it.
no. I'm fine. If I can pin him, I can pin him. Now, anything inside of 45, and I know it's 4 yard difference, but anything inside of 45, I'm going for
Okay.
I know it's a 4 yard, it's a game of inches, but it is a 4 yard difference. But the fact that this is me personally, right? If I was a head coach and I'm looking at like what's my yardage of going for it? It's within the 40 to 45 range of your opponent's side of the field because it's either you take a delay of game and then you move the ball back to punt it, or you actually go for it, if that makes sense. But to go halfway of the field, I feel like you're still in there's no room for error. You're kind of
Yeah,
putting
but again, that's why I'm saying you guys are up 10-0. This is like you have the
it also depends.
momentum, and it's
It
4th and
depends on how
2.
the offense. It depends on how FSU looks. Like how have they been able to? If you're telling me that FSU has not gotten one first down, I'm going for it. Like
Jeez. Just trying to give you one hypothetical. We gotta fill in all the details here.
yeah,
But this
but
is what I'm
that's
talking about when you're saying, like, step on their throat. Like, you're telling me that if you're Mario Cristobal and it's 10-0 and you have all the momentum, you're just gonna punt it and hope that the
well
ball
if
doesn't bounce in the end zone. Because what you're saying
well
is we're gonna
if
pin
you
them.
word it like that,
Like, you literally just said, like, I want him to step on their throat. I'm saying 10-0, you had the lead. I don't know if we wanna get specific, 2nd quarter, right? And you get the ball back
do we get the
in the
ball?
3rd
Okay,
quarter, right? And
yeah, I'm
there's
going for
about
it.
4 minutes left in
Oh,
the
I'm going
2nd
for it.
quarter.
I'm going for it.
Okay. There's 7
Going for it.
minutes left in the 2nd quarter.
Going for it.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better. Like,
Yeah,
so
but
you would be
it
annoyed if Mario didn't okay, let me go back to that question.
yeah, yeah,
If
yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah, I'll
let's be
be
specific. It's 10-0. You're getting the ball back in the 2nd half.
mhm,
It's 5 minutes left. 4th and 2 on the 49-yard line. You're going for
mhm,
it. If Mario
absolutely.
doesn't go for it, you're annoyed.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the fact, I mean, but like you said, like you have to like fill in all the other additional information. Like if I know I'm getting the ball back, and I'm gonna go for it because I'm stealing a possession away from you. If I make that, I'm stealing a possession, and I have an opportunity to sit on the ball because obviously we're better in the trenches. We're gonna run the ball. We're gonna eat out that clock, and then what's gonna end up happening? Let's just say we kick a field goal and it's 13-0. We give you back the ball. Guess what we're going to end up making you do? We're going to make Tommy a quarterback, and we're going to have to make Tommy throw the ball. Interception on our side of the field, get another 3 points, go into halftime, come back, and we get the ball back.
Well, that's
Like,
what I'm trying to say. Like, first of all, I don't think you guys are gonna get the ball back in the second half. Depends on who wins the toss. Like, if FSU wins, they're deferring.
is that
Um,
on your pick'em?
my pickle? No, I don't eat pickles.
No, pick
But
'em.
I know. No, but I'm saying, like,
Gee.
I think even if UM wins a toss, they're deferring too. So, like, either way, like, whoever I think it's like a new thing now to, like, just defer always because you want that it affects how
Absolutely.
you call in the last because everything a lot of people like to focus on the middle 8 now. Like, who wins that middle 8 is gonna be really effective and it
Mhm.
predicates who wins, like, the game a lot. Like, obviously, if you're down 20 nothing and you win 7 like, you win the middle 8 7 nothing, like, it doesn't matter at that point. But again, if it's a close game, what you'll see is whoever wins the middle 8 usually has, like, the advantage. But that's where I'm saying I think there's a difference between FSU and UM where, like, the coaching is the coaching better? No, obviously, this is a team that went 2-10 last year, and they replaced everybody basically, right? But if FSU's in that position, without a doubt, they're going for it. Even if they're down 10 nothing, they're going for it. Like, that's why I'm saying that when Norvell's coaching, he's not coaching concern. He like, if I'm getting blown out, I'm gonna get blown out, but we're gonna try and get some first downs here just to salvage some points, which is fine.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, if you're gonna get blown out, you might as well go out in style. But with that being said, how going back to the spread, and if you want to get specific and give a score, go ahead. But how do you really see this game playing out?
Well, obviously, it depends on the weather, right? Um,
It just sucks
because
like
that does
we have to say that now. Well, yeah, I get what you're saying.
it depends on the weather. Like, if it's a dry game,
It's dry heat.
you know I'm looking at, like, 28 to 17 UM. If maybe, I mean, it's yeah, like, I mean, I'm thinking UM wins by 7 or 10-point difference, give or take. Maybe it could be 28 or 35 to, like, 17 or something like that. Um, if it's a wet game, I think it's a closer game. I believe it would be like 21 to 17, or
FSU's gonna score 17 apparently.
yeah, I got them
Wet or
scoring
dry.
17. Wet or dry, they're scoring 17. That's kind of where I see it. I don't see this game being close at all. And the only way I see it getting close, it's one of those that it's almost like a blowout, but the score doesn't say it. Um,
Like the Gator game?
yeah, literally took the words right out of my mouth. It's one of those that's like they won by double digits or comfortably, but the score says something a little bit different. But if you watch the game and you watch how they won, you know it was a butt whooping.
If the game is score-wise, not game script-wise, score-wise, if it's like the UF game where it's 13-7 going into the 3rd quarter, late in the 3rd quarter or whatever it was, right? That was in the 4th where it was 13-7, right? It was like late 3rd quarter.
Mhm. Yeah, like third quarter.
How are you feeling?
Um, the same way I'm feeling, the same way I felt about the UF. It depends. Because the thing about looking
You
at
know
the
what? You're right.
UF,
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that because I get what you're gonna say here. If the game is 28-21,
mhm,
because that means FSU is kind of not being like 100% effective, but they've been able to score like a few times here. Like, but you're
mhm,
also scoring as well. However, it's still close in the sense of like it's a one possession game and it's still like the middle of the 3rd quarter. Your defense isn't really playing the containment that you want to because they're obviously they've been able to get 21 points
mhm.
in that scenario rather than 13-7 because that's just silly. You're obviously confident because that means FSU's not moving the ball.
Yeah.
But if it's a 28-21 game and it's a one-score game or 28-24 in the 3rd quarter, how are you feeling as a UM fan?
Concerning. No. Um, I'd probably yeah, I mean, I'll be a little bit worried to the most part. Like I'd be concerned just because of the fact of the given history of coaching decisions. But what makes me feel a little bit better is that your coaching decisions as an FSU coaching staff make me feel a little bit better because I'm like, okay, I know that our coaches have shown in the past, or Mario has shown in the past, not to maybe call a perfect game and kind of drop the ball or take a knee when they need to. Um, but but looking at FSU's track record and especially what the coaching staff has done before, it's not like I'm worried just because of the coaching matchup. If it was like a Kirby, right, coach, I'd be a little worried. I'd be more worried because that coach has been there before. I don't. I'm not as worried because I don't think Mike Noel is gonna. Does it?
Well,
He doesn't.
to be fair, Gus Malzahn, I think, has full autonomy over, like, the offense at this point.
Mhm. I don't know.
I will agree with you the concerns, at least with on the Tony White side, because I don't think ooh, it's gonna suck to say this. I don't think it's a coaching issue on the defensive side. It's a personnel issue. I think that the key to this game you're gonna say, like, again, what I told you earlier is I don't wanna make it obvious. Like, everybody's gonna say, "Oh, is Earl Little gonna be, like, tackling Mark Fletcher in the hole?" Right? Because he plays the rover position, and that's his job as a safety
Uh-huh.
is to
Uh,
I'm not gonna say is Daryl Jackson gonna be eating up, like, the center and the guard, either left or right, because he's the nose tackle in this system. The key to this game for me is how Tony White masks the inefficiencies, because we cannot rush the quarterback. We have quality cornerbacks. We have quality safeties when it comes to Earl Little strictly being a tackler. If Earl Little's forced to cover, this game's over. Um, but if there is no effective defensive end play on FSU's side, there is nothing that Tony White can do that can mask that. And on top of that, if UM is smart enough, what they're going to exploit on the offensive side is the tight end matchup because there's only one linebacker in Blake Nicholson who's athletic enough to run coverage on this team. And all the other linebackers that play, and mind you, we rotate like 5 or 6 guys. If Elijah Herring's in the game, I'm I'm saying a few Hail Marys, okay? Because that guy in coverage, I'll show you when we make the trip, I'll show you, like, some stuff that I've seen about Elijah Herring that it is just like, if I see him on the field, you're right, UM's marching up and down the field on those plays, right? Like, if I see James Williams, number 10 on the defensive side, if I'm UM, Mark Fletcher is running right at that side of the ball. And that's the part where it to me, it doesn't matter what Tony White does to try and scheme up coverages or bringing in pressure and all that stuff. Like, to me, it's a personnel issue, which is why I told you, I thought they'd lose to Alabama because they didn't have the bodies. I think offensively, they're gonna be fine. I think this offense is legitimate in the sense of how they're able to run the ball and control that side of the ball. I think that is a good thing in the sense of it keeps the UM offense off the field and ideally keeps the UM defense on the field enough as to where you're really going to have to dig deep for those bench players to make sure that Bain and Mesidor do what they do at the end of the Notre Dame and the Florida game, which to me is always the most impressive thing. It's literally like a switch at the end of the game where it's just like, "Hey, these guys are really good. Okay, we're ending the game now." Like, it's just a weird thing that they did at the end of the Notre Dame game and the end of the Florida game where they're just like, "Alright, we're flicking the switch and we're gonna do, like, 3 pressures. One of us is gonna get a sack, the other one's gonna get a half a sack on the next play," sort of thing.
I will say though, if Carson Beck becomes a runner in this game, not like a when I say runner, not like to a Tommy, but just to
If he's like
like
Chandler Morris, if he just does enough to get away and create the
exactly.
perception that like,
The
"Oh,
game's over.
he's not gonna stay in here,"
Mhm.
which
I
could
think
be
the game's
possible
up.
with how god awful James Williams has been playing at defensive end. He's gonna fucking spin move in, and then Carson Beck's gonna be like, "That whole side of the field's wide open. Like, eventually, I'm gonna get 3 yards out of that." Like, and if you just start having that threat, yes. Can he run? Absolutely not. But if you can do just enough to keep the defense and Tony White saying, "Man, we gotta do this instead of that," it's gonna be a
'Cause it's
big
like
deal.
one of those it's like 'cause like what I do see is like it's one of those plays that you don't uh, put like accountability towards like what Carson Beck's gonna run. So you're like so worried about, hey, let's lock everything up. It's a passing down. And I could see it already. It's like
You saw it in
a
the red
third.
zone against Virginia. That's what
Yeah.
Virginia was doing. Like, Chandler Morris would be like, "Oh, everything's covered except for this lane straight into the end zone."
Yeah.
Again, can Carson Beck do that? I don't think you want him to do that
No, but
because unfortunately, if one of these guys, if Earl Little Jr. meets Carson Beck in the middle of the field and hits him the way he's been hitting people outside of the Virginia, I mean, he hit people in the Virginia game, but A, he's probably gonna get a personal foul and be ejected from the game. Um, B, you better pray that Carson Beck isn't in, like, the concussion protocol or anything like that, and then you have to worry about Emory Williams again playing, so but that being said, I to get on my side of the prediction, wet or dry, UM should win this game, and I think it's going to be one of those things where they're gonna pull it's gonna kinda play out the way it's played out for all the other games. They're gonna pull away in the 4th quarter because, again, I don't think FSU has the bodies. Like, they don't have the defensive ends. The only thing that I think will be important for this game for FSU is if Kevin Wynn is playing a defensive tackle, the true freshman, because that boy is a big boy. Guy's like
big boy.
6'4", 350 pounds. Um, and then they're moving Amari Williams, the guy who plays tight end and defensive end. They finally realized, hey, we have 3 offensive-minded tight ends. I don't think we need Amari Williams at tight end. We need him at defensive end because he was recruited as both, and
Mm.
he put on enough weight this season as to where he can play defensive end. And again, I don't mean to pick on this poor kid, but James Williams does not rush the quarterback, and he does not set the edge. If you can't do either of those things against he is not gonna be seeing the field a lot. The less I see of James Williams against FS or against the more I think FSU can keep this game close. That being said, I think this game is probably gonna be 34-24. I think FSU does get their plays in. I do think it becomes a thing where once starts pulling away, that forces FSU to play the game that they don't want to play, which is what you're talking about, where they force Tommy to be a quarterback just because they're behind so much that they have to play that type of game, and it takes them away from the game script that they want to do. So, any final things you want to add to this one?
I do want to add it's very exciting time. You kind of alluded to it in the beginning of the pod. It's I've waited for 20 years for both programs to kind of align to make it more intriguing that we actually have a ranked game going into the season. So, very exciting. I will
Real,
say
real
that
quick on that, do you think this is reminiscent of 2013? where like FSU, if they won the Virginia game, they would have been a top 5 team because of how everything broke down in the sense of
Mhm.
Georgia and all those teams losing. Do you think this is reminiscent of 2013 where UM was like the 7th or ninth ranked team and they were undefeated and they were going up against Jameis Winston and all these guys who set the record for most points scored in a season? Like, I think the spread for that game was like the largest in history at the time for top 10 teams. It was like a 22-point spread or 21-point spread. Do you think this is the same thing but in reverse in the sense that like even at 18, like FSU, like it might still be too high because again, this is a team that was 2-10 last year, and UM is clearly the better team. Is this, in your mind,
I
like
think I think
a reversal of 2013?
first I believe so. I think both programs are in different stages, and coincidentally, they're on the same stages of when that happened during that time period. FSU's recovering from a season that they, obviously it's
Yeah, just move on.
was was terrible, but looking at UN has progressively built the momentum to where they're at now. While FSU is starting the building blocks to get to the building to that stepping ground of where UN is currently at. But that gives the motivation for the boys to come and play. So
But yeah, I think this is gonna be I just hope it's a good game, you know? Like, I think to finally wrap it up, like, the same thing that I told you and Miguel coming into the season, what I really wanted to see from FSU was how the coaching staff performed and how they put these kids in a position to succeed because they don't have the talent that I expect from a Florida State team. And on the flip side, going into this season, I think you agree with me that it was basically ACC championship game or bust for UM. And if you're reaching the ACC championship game, then you should be reaching the college football playoffs. Now, with how the season's played out, it's ACC champion or bust for UM, in my opinion. That being said, we'll wrap this one up. And you guys know the drill. 305 Insights, YouTube. Like, subscribe, follow, throw us a comment. Apple Podcasts, rate us 5 stars, subscribe. And you can find us on Spotify. Eric, would you like to take it home for us?
yeah, I just want to say to everybody, I appreciate you guys listening. And you know, I know you see that button there. I know you do. You're probably wondering yourself, how do I get notified about this wonderful content that I'm listening to? And I love the voices of what I'm hearing. Guess what? We love the fact that you're listening. So just don't press that button. Smash that button so you can get the hot notifications coming in every time we post on all platforms. That's all I got to say.